got unity. Together we are free. We are free. We are free. We are free. No more walls and fear. Together love is here. No more walls and fear. Together love is here. No more walls and fear. Together love is here. Love is here. Love is here. Love is here.
Your mic. Press the button.
Hello.
There, that's better. That's better.
Okay. Welcome to you and to those online to Unity of Appleton and Community for Spiritual Growth. I'm at a good start. I've been rereading this book, How to Let God Help You. It's about Unity's co-founder, Myrtle Fillmore, in her own words, from her healing letters, her lectures, and the columns that she wrote through Unity. And it was put together, Myrtle passed over in 1931, but her legacy lives on. I highlighted many parts of this book, and excuse me, but this is what my notes look like. I highlighted many parts of this book in the late 1990s, but I was not ready to understand it. And so I went on and started rereading the book. I really didn't have too many passages when I read the book in 1990 put on, and then I started reading it last month, and it was, I think the whole book is marked up now. Everything that's in there is in what we talk about here at Unity all the time. It's just in that book in different words. I was really taken back by it, even though I knew so much about her then. There was an important quote that I was reading at the same time I was writing this, what I was going to do today. And it was divine order, definitely direct. And I started to understand, excuse me here, why my mind's negative thinking caused me aches and pains. And I want to read that to you. In Myrtle's words, the mind sends its messages along the nerves. Therefore, you can see the character of your thoughts does affect the nerves. When the thoughts are of worry, fear, anxiety, grief, lack of life, loneliness, lack of supply, or any other negation, the nerve suffers and becomes depleted by the mind. Excuse me, because I can barely see this. It becomes completed by the mind and get into a chronic condition of cross currents from repeated anxious, worried, fearful, sorrowful thoughts. And then this next part is paraphrased. Turn to God, the healing, peace-giving, joy-filling, prospering ideas of God's love, life, and substance still will fill the mind and heart, quickening new energies in the body. As I said earlier, maybe I didn't because I went back. I did say that learning was I was going to say learning is important. As I said earlier, learning is important. This is the learning circle. Where'd it go? This is the learning circle, a poem that I wrote back in 2019. The learning curve. The learning curve is a circle of truth. With every step, there is a clue. It goes around and around. There are no limits to be found. As human beings, learning is our greatest asset. Sometimes we need to stop and rewind, lest we forget to listen, see and feel, and just take a break. Then again to learn on the circle with every step we take. Sometimes we quietly take a breath and take it within, while we think about the places we have been. Sometimes we learn in a bustling crowd, learning from each other when it's joyous and loud. Learning is all around us. We need to be aware. Sometimes it's an enemy, stranger, or friend as we share the air we breathe, the earth, the sky, everywhere we look. Sometimes it's just one word, a phrase, or a book. The best place of the circle is where there is positive energy, a place where we become aware of coincidental synergy, a place where we all come together as one, honest and true. For me, this place is here, in this room, with you. So welcome. And now we're to say our vision. A world powerfully transformed through shared spiritual awakening. And our mission, advancing the movement of spiritual awakening and transformation through unity, a positive path for spiritual living. And our values, abundance, acceptance, community, diversity, integrity, joy, and love. And we celebrate our children. Unity of Appleton sees the divinity in all children, nurtures their unfolding spirituality. And the daily word is divine order, which was also in my speech, but I didn't bring it. Divine order supports my life. Divine order is one of the great truths of life. It provides a foundation for all growth and a blueprint for all manifestation. Feeling stuck or bewildered is a sign that I am out of step with divine order. I pause, and with compassion for myself, I release thoughts of worry, impatience, and doubt. I remind myself of times when I wondered whether I hoped for a result or what would ever happen, only to realize in hindsight that foundational aspects had to be in place first. Remembering this helps me to be patient and trusting now. I affirm I cooperate with divine order. It is established in my life now. I listen with my mind and heart, trusting that I will discern my path one step at a time. And from Proverbs 3:5, trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not rely on your own insight. Let's repeat it's not up there.
Nope.
Divine order supports my life. Say it. Divine order supports my life. Thank you. Now it's my privilege to introduce. Oops, you're going to have music.
We got a song first.
I know it. It says that right here.
Okay, good.
Okay.
I'd gladly walk across the desert with no shoes upon my feet to share with you the last bite of bread I had to eat. I would swim out to save you in your sea of broken dreams. When all your hopes are sinking, let me show you what love means. Love can build a bridge between your heart and mine. Love can build a bridge. Don't you think it's time? Don't you think it's time? I would whisper love so loudly, every heart would understand that love and only love can join the tribes of man. I would give my heart's desire so that you might see. The first step is to realize that it all begins with you and me. Love can build a bridge between your heart and mine. Love can build a bridge. Don't you think it's time? Don't you think it's time? Love can build a bridge between your heart and mine. Love can build a bridge. Don't you think it's time? Don't you think it's time?
Yes, it's my privilege. I just met Cheryl, and she's lovely. And Cheryl Davis McKernan is a fourth-generation Unity student, having served to a spiritual leader, church board president, and workshop presenter. Cheryl has worked with 2 generations of young people and hundreds of kids as a youth leader and Sunday school director. Both her adult ones were raised in Unity and graduated from Y.O.U program, and her youngest son was a regional representative for the Southwest region. Cheryl and Tim and their dogs, Arrow and Colin, hope to have their own Appleton residence soon. Please welcome Cheryl.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. See, you winged it perfectly.
Yeah, look at what I did.
That's okay. There you go. Good morning. I'm going to actually take this off of here, so There we go. That wasn't too loud, was it? So again, good morning. Look at all these great faces. It's all warm and cozy in here. So first off, I want to say it's just an honor and a privilege to be here with you. My husband, Tim, and I, 2 years ago, headed out from the West Coast in the middle of the pandemic, and we knew we wanted to land in Wisconsin. We were thinking Milwaukee was going to be our home. And it's lovely. We absolutely love it there, but it just wasn't us. And so we checked out a few other communities, and driving by on our way up to, I don't remember where it was, Door County, I want to say. We're driving on the eastern highway, and I kept seeing the sign Appleton that way. And, well, for you, that way. It just sounded really intriguing. So a month later, my husband said, "What about Appleton? We haven't been up there." Well, I said, "It's interesting you would say that, because I was volunteering at the Unity Church in Milwaukee, and they had opened up again after, the pandemic. So I was calling people on my list, and it could have been one of you gentlemen here, I'm not sure, but was on my list to call. And he was so wonderful. He said, "Well, actually, I go to the Appleton Church." And I said, "Oh, there was that Appleton again. I didn't realize there was a Unity Church there." I kept hearing all these really cool things about this church. So I looked it up online. I saw one of your services. It's like, oh, they have a band, and the band is really good. So thank you so much. That was wonderful. It's just so great to be here. Everything is in divine order. Today's daily word, I didn't know that it was divine order. And several things happened. I left my talk printed out on my printer at home. So I thought, no worries, there's a business center at the La Quinta Hotel where we're staying. I'll print it out there. Well, that didn't happen either. I wasn't able to connect to the printer here. And everything was divine order, divine order. As I was writing this talk, the words divine order kept coming through. And part of it, when I was looking for quotes, there was one that just kept popping up in my mind. And it is a quote that was borrowed from Paul in the books of Acts. Paul paraphrased it from an ancient Egyptian poet who, 300 years before the time of Christ. And I borrowed it from the Fillmores, who they paraphrased it from Paul. So see where this is going? So this is coming to you from, think about how old that would have been, an ancient Egyptian poet. "I live and move and have my being in divine source." I live and move and have my being in divine source. This is it's a quote that's been in my brain since a youngster. The Fillmores were, if you've read, you were talking about reading Myrtle's book, and they were influenced by science of mind, Christian Science, and they used different terms than we currently do. They used the term treatment in a lot of their early writings, prayer as treatment. And Charles Fillmore, especially in his talks, referred to divine mind. That was big in that time, divine mind. We call it now, I don't know, I believe people here use the word God. There are some folks that think God still is an old man sitting up in the sky. So they've dropped that word and they call it spirit. Working with teenagers, I got used to calling it spirit. So this is what I use quite often, is God is divine spirit. God is divine source. Everything that we are comes from that divine source, right? We are expressions, human expressions of God. I live and move and have my being in divine source. There have been a few turbulent things going on in our lives over the last several years. Wouldn't you agree? Personal lives, I know many people have dealt with health issues or the loss of a loved one or something along those lines. It's new. Life is constantly changing. But we know that we are always, at all times, we live and move and have our being in divine source. As a child in Unity Sunday School, I learned there is not a spot where God is not. There is no spot where God is not. God is everywhere, everywhere present. So when, my goodness, I'm trying to think, just going through life's events, but really looking at 2 years ago when this pandemic started, I was really curious to know back in, was it 1915, 16, 18, somewhere along there, where there was another pandemic. And I was in Milwaukee. I was there to give the Sunday service on March 19th. I had flown in for that. And by March 17th, I realized I better go home because they were canceling flights everywhere. And while we were very excited to move here to Wisconsin, I wasn't planning on doing that left yet. I still had my husband back home and our dogs. So I looked up to see what did Charles Fillmore say during the last pandemic. I could find nothing there where he talked in his Sunday morning about specifically what was happening. What he did say was, I live and move and have my being in divine mind. So that the Sunday services during the pandemic, during World War I, during World War II, there was no mention of public events. They weren't listening, reading the paper and addressing that specifically in church. You were talking about rereading this book again and realizing when the Fillmores were here more than 100 years ago. Think about this. Unity was formed. That way of thinking started only 20 years after the Civil War. Think about that. We call it New Thought, New Age. There's nothing new about this. This is based on ancient wisdom. But the fact that this organization has been around for almost as long as it's been since the Civil War is just amazing. So what truths are there that we can take with us? The title of my talk is Stirred, Not Shaken. Now, what does that remind you of? It's similar. James Bond, right? Except he said what? Shaken, not stirred. Okay, referring to a martini, right? And folks said that the reason he wanted it shaken and not stirred was because it would water down the alcohol that was in the drink. So as he was drinking his martinis with these other folks that, he's a clever spy, he knew that his drink would be watered down, right? So he wouldn't have the effects of the alcohol as much as then. He was cunning, blah, 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 blah. So I had my photo taken against this beautiful wall of, it looks like the sea. And this talk title occurred, I was speaking about 5 years ago, it popped in as I was walking with my feet in the Pacific Ocean, and the waves were coming up, and there was this one outlet that goes into a lagoon, and high tide, the water runs in, and low tide, the water comes out. So I was walking as the water is coming in, and I noticed these little pebbles on the ground, on the floor, and the water would come in, and all the sand around them was getting stirred up, but these pebbles, these rocks stayed. They moved just a little bit. That's where this title came from. They're stirred, but not shaken. So you think about that as we go through life. Our lives are when thinking of a goldfish, the first time I heard I live and move and have my being, my brain went to just like fish, right? They don't realize there's water around them. For us, it's our air. We don't really think about it. Everywhere there is God. It's everywhere with us. Yet times what happens to the water, it gets turbulent. And it's our choice, divine consciousness, if we allow that to come through us, we can either be swept up in that current and smashed against the rocks on the beach of Lake Michigan here. We can get smashed against those rocks, or we can let go and maintain our centeredness and our groundedness. So Wisconsin is so, I just love it here. I'm originally from Michigan. I miss Four Seasons. I miss the trees and everything that's in this part of the world. It's wonderful to be back. And people here, if I were to ask you right now in your mind, think of a forest. What do you picture? You're in the middle of a forest. You're going to see trees, right? There might be some evergreens or maple trees or whatever it is, but you're looking up at this forest. Now, if you were a little Garibaldi goldfish and you asked it, think of a forest, what would the image be that it would come up with? And here is a forest. It's called a kelp forest. And this photo is taken, I believe, up in Monterey off the coast in the Pacific. My kids were really fortunate. They grew up in Cardiff by the Sea, California, and it was this really cool, sweet little town, very tight-knit. And one of the great things, the opportunities they had, was they did their outdoor schooling a couple of times a year, and the teachers would take the kids down to the beach, and they would look at the kelp that had washed up, and they were noticing that there's little, they're called brittle stars, these little called starfish, sea stars, inside, all kinds of things that they could look for. And one of the dads there was a lifeguard, so he brought in this giant kelp so they could study it. And I learned something as a 40-something-year-old mom, that kelp doesn't grow in the soil or in the sand on the bottom. It holds on to a rock at the bottom. That's where its root system, if you will. These roots are tangled. They look like a mess of spaghetti. And they're on a rock that holds them to the bottom. And that structure is called the holdfast. And again, I'm using it. What do I hold fast to? What keeps me grounded? In meditation time, this is an image I think of. So down here, there is this giant spaghetti looking, it almost looks like a brain. The synapses, you've seen the pictures of what happens to our brain, right? When there are electrical currents that go through it. And again, everything is in synchronicity. Everything is in divine order. We are all connected to everyone and everything because we all live and move and have our being in divine source. No matter who we are, what we are, all sentient beings, and I believe non-sentient beings like trees, rocks, we're all connected. There's all an energy in all of us. Some of us get swept away with those big storms. So these plants are reaching for the sun, but there are some days that there are giant storms that come in, and some of these plants are ripped up from their roots, from their rocks, and they're brought up onto shore. But some of these plants grow to be 125 feet tall. Big roots on them, big tangles that go to their rock, their groundedness. What does that have to do with us? Cheryl, what does this have to do with us? How am I going to learn this? Like, how does this help me in my future life? Sounds like a high schooler. Do I have to learn this? Will there be a test? Yes, your test is this. Test yourself. How big is your root structure? Each of those little tendrils at the bottom, is a prayer, is a time of meditation, are good thoughts, are the actions or the reactions that we have in any situation, knowing that the storms are going to come, they're going to be there. Everything is temporary. My husband has a shirt that is a George Harrison shirt. Some of you may know George Harrison. He was part of a group of 4. You've heard of them. And it says, all things must pass. All things must pass. So whether it's a war or a pandemic or a wonderful time with your friends or your family or your children or grandchildren, all things must pass. So it's what do we do in this moment? Whether there's negativity coming at us or turbulence or the big storms are coming, do we want to hang there knowing that the sun's going to come back again? Wait, another George Harrison song. Here Comes the Sun. I got a theme here. Okay, band, next time. So this is an image that I use oftentimes going into a meditation. It's like, where am I? And how strong is my stronghold? Really, there's a quote. I don't know if you're familiar with Paramahansa Yogananda, master guru who was a contemporary with Charles Fillmore, a little bit younger than Charles, but Yogananda said, "Your actual reality lies not in the outer things, but in your inner reaction to them." The more you meditate, the more helpful you can be to others, and the more deeply you will be in tune with the divine, with your divine. Selfish people remain spiritually hidebound, but the unselfish expand their consciousness. When you find your omnipresence in meditation, you will find God, and all nature will work in harmony with you. Learn to talk to your divine with all your soul. Learn to talk to your divine with all your soul. Everything's in divine order, even dropping my papers up here. So that's where we are. We have that choice to be stirred and not shaken. We just have to remember who we are. And like you said earlier, this is the place. This is our strength, our serenity. This is a good feeling place that you have here. And I know that there is no organization where two or more are gathered that there isn't some challenges. And I was filled in a little bit. I don't need to know details or history, but I was amazed. The story of the purchase of this building, how beautifully decorated it is, and I'm going to use the word, the vibe that's here when someone walks in who's never been here before. It's been a very long time it's been a very long time since I've had the greeting I had this morning. And I want to honor all of you. I can tell you have very strong strongholds. This is a prayed up group of individuals. So I really want to thank you for that and know that the divine in me sees the divine in you. And I say namaste. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. I now invite you to begin to prepare yourself for reflective personal prayer and guided musical meditation, after which I ask that you remain in essential silence during the music. If you choose to, you may close your eyes. Feel the weight of your body as it relaxes into your chair and you let go of today's anxieties. Feel your feet on the solid earth beneath as you let go of tomorrow's worries. Become aware in this moment of your breathing. As you breathe in life and breathe out love. Breathe in life and breathe out love. And as you become centered, focus your attention on your beautiful heart, your beautiful Christ self, and become filled with gratitude. And allow into yourself that which fills you with peace and light. And so we begin. And now I invite you to gently return to this place.
Announcements. Childcare will now only be whoops. Sorry, go. Is it on yet?
Yes.
Okay. Childcare will now only be available the first and third Sundays of the month. We need childcare volunteers. Please talk to Priscilla or Carrie. Priscilla will work with volunteers so you won't have to create Sunday school content on your own. And we need lodging for Reverend Tom Wendt and his wife on May 7th. If you can provide hospitality, please let Carrie know. Okay, our affirmation. That's all the announcements? Wow. Affirmation of prosperity. Unity of Appleton is alive with the energy of spirit in the flow of divine abundance and radiant with unlimited possibilities. And our celebration of giving and receiving, divine love in and through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I joyfully give and willingly receive. I give in love, and I trust God as my source.
Peace in my life is growing because I choose love. Love's always present, it's what I made
Now, the prayer of protection. Light of God surrounds us. Love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Did you want